Can I raise money? Of course. Is it what I am best at? No. What I am best at is finding opportunities like this one, paying a premium to someone who will help me raise the money because it keeps me focused on the things that I'm great
at. You're listening to Let Me Speak to a Manager with Frank Cava and Ian Matthews.
What a crock of shit.
Yeah, that was hot mic, Sam.
It's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Frankie.
Ian, you handsome son of a bitch.
Frankie, you look really nice today. Look at you with the sport jacket.
Yeah, you and I are going to an event this evening to go to a funeral. So I have to take a trip up. So I'm dressed. I'm dressed for that.
Dressed appropriately. I'm not in the outfit that I'm going to be wearing to the wake, but trust that I will be looking fresh like you by the time I see you.
So big question on my mind, Ian, is what did you think of the Bad Bunny halftime performance, or were you more of a Kid Rock guy? Did you tune into the Great American halftime show?
Oh, you know I was listening to the guy with the Detroit hat on a little bit more, but I did watch my kids wanted to watch the Bad Bunny just to see what it was all about, so I flipped back a little bit. I mean, here's what I think. I'm old, man, so I didn't like Bad Bunny. I don't speak Spanish. I don't like music that I don't know the language. If some German was up there speaking German, I would dislike that too. So I didn't like it. But all of this noise around like the NFL sold out its core fans. Here's the way I see it. Like people from Latin America were crying. They were emotional. They were locked in on the Super Bowl. They've been paying attention to this date for months. From a marketing perspective with the NFL, I thought it was brilliant. There are absolutely zero old white dudes that don't speak Spanish who are going to stop watching the NFL next year. Zero. I don't care what you say. Like, I understand if you say, listen, I'm not going to buy Nike anymore because you supported Colin Kaepernick. Okay. But is someone really going to quit watching the Chicago Bears because Bad Bunny was the halftime show of the Super Bowl? No. They're going to spend every bit as much money on the NFL, and the NFL went out and got a big swath of new people watching the Super Bowl. And if they picked up millions of new fans of tackle football, I think it's brilliant. But did I like the show? No, I thought it was friggin' awful. It was terrible.
So I have a couple of thoughts. If you look at like Spotify downloads, Kid Rock gets like 5 million a week, and Bad Bunny gets like 85 million a week, something like that. Like, in fairness, Kid Rock came out 30 years before Spotify was invented, so possibly Spotify is not the right way to measure him, but I get it. So this is what I found really unique. I have three really cool things about Super Bowl, and then we'll move on. With Bad Bunny, everything was about unity, and it was about joining together and doing something. Do you know what isn't unifying or doesn't bring people together? The dominant language in this country is English. And if you are hard of hearing, or if you speak any other version of a language besides English, you have the ability to have subtitles, or they'll have an interpreter for you. But if you do something where all English people tune in and they don't actually have it subtitled, I thought that was idiotic. Like, I'll watch it, but like, give me a chance to understand. Like, was there really a wedding? Was that staged? Turned out it wasn't staged. It was real. But why alienate? And if you want to unify, this is what I think the Democratic Party has done terribly in the last 10 years. If you are a white guy, we don't really want you. If you don't believe me, go to any Democratic website. They have support groups for every single person out there except for white working class and white males. And they flooded to Donald Trump, and it's the reason Trump won is because of that demographic alone. So don't hit me with unity and leave me out.
And then they complain that they didn't get the young vote. You didn't get the young white dude vote is what you didn't get. You screwed yourself. You treated them like shit, and they all went a different direction.
I've seen Kid Rock in concert. I think he's fucking awesome. I didn't tune into it on Super Bowl Sunday because I wanted to watch the Super Bowl. I don't want to watch something else. I have every channel humanly possible. I have an internet connection. I wanted to be part of it, but I wasn't really part of it. I got to watch it. I don't think he's a particularly great singer. I don't understand the music. I thought it was really cool. It was like really point of view. And like, my opinion is, my people immigrated here 100 years ago. They played dominoes. Half of the people in my family are hard workers. Half of them dance for a living. Like, I could relate to the whole entire show. It just wasn't in a language I understood. If you really want to get me in, help me understand it a little bit more. People are like, go to the internet, use AI. Why? I tuned into an English language show, and that's what I was hoping for. That's that.
What is your wife would know this? What percentage of Americans understand Spanish?
Hard to say because of all the illegals, which she wouldn't say, but I do believe it's something in the neighborhood of about 50 million out of 350. So 1/7, about 15%. And it's somewhere between 15 and 25%.
I would have thought 20 was high. So yeah, that's about where I would have guessed.
She and
So
I
like,
argue over, is it 15 to 20%? Somewhere between 15 and 25%.
yeah, but the Super Bowl has a huge international following as well,
Why
right?
did the NFL do it? Makes perfect sense to me. It's a huge audience. Old, tired white guys like us are going to tune into the Super Bowl because our granddads did, and our great granddads did, and our dads did. And my kids sat next to me and they were rooting for the Seahawks, even though they don't understand football very much. But they know Dad doesn't like the Patriots because we're Dolphin fans. So we're rooting for their rivals. We're rooting for the other guys, and that's how this stuff works. But they're not going to lose us. But bringing in that other person from the outside, I get it. It makes a lot of sense. So I'll pivot to two other things about Super Bowl I thought were awesome. Kind of a commentary on the world at the moment. I think like there's going to be kind of backlash. I think social media is getting a backlash, and I think the food industry is going to have a huge backlash, similar to what happened with cigarettes 30, 40, 50 years ago. Mike Tyson had that ad that I thought was great. You talk about eating real food. You talk about his sister that died prematurely. Awesome ad. And it's just, to me, it's just like they went to the source. They went to the guy people trust, and it was awesome. And it's just like, hey, do you know the number one thing people spend money on with food stamps?
Like it's got to be like chips or something terrible.
Worse, soda is the number one thing people spend money on with food stamps. And it's shit that kills you. So like in America, what we do now is we fatten you up with our screwed up food pyramid, and then from there we pivot over to let's give you to the medical complex to keep you alive. Like, why not just deal with the source? And I feel like this is kind of a turning point. It was a pretty big ad. It was in the second half, cheaper then, but at the same time, I thought that was really cool.
Kennedy's doing some good stuff with the health and services. Like they're going to ban all of the worst chemical dyes that just everyone knows are really bad for you, and enforce these and they've got the companies to agree like, okay, we're going to, like, there's a lot of good things happening there. It's just kind of it's a lightning rod, like all things Kennedy is. And you also, just like the Spanish speaking show, you can't understand what Kennedy's saying because his voice box is going.
I agree with that. The downside of it is everything Kennedy's doing, everybody who's a Democrat thinks it's terrible. It isn't. Like, he's like everybody else. A lot of it's good. Some of it isn't.
He's the lightning rod on the vaccine stuff. Like that's like, but so much of the other things that he's doing with Dr. Oz and everything are just common sense. Like, no, you shouldn't eat 12 helpings of bread a day. That's not great. Like just basics. Like, let's bring the physical fitness back to the schools. Is that really a bad? Oh, that discriminates against fat kids. You know what? That's better than the fat kid dying when they're 35 of diabetes. Like, learn how to exercise, fatty. Like, that's how it should be.
This is pretty cool. I got a new gym set up in my basement, and I have my ceiling is like less than 8 feet tall, so it's really, really difficult to get things fixed. And things are 100 years old. So we got one in, and we can do a pull-up. So Ellie and I, my wife and I, made an agreement that we were going to do pull-ups every day. And I don't think I've hit every day, but I've probably hit 25 days in January. I could do 5 pull-ups on January 1st. And I did 12 Sunday, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to try and do it every day. And she didn't think she could do 2. Now she's up to like 4 or 5. So like literally in pull-ups is the big thing on presidential fitness that nobody could ever do. Like there was 1 kid per class that would actually get it because they could do pull-ups. That's a big part of it. So I thought that was cool. All right. Last thing on Super
Bowl. I love pull-ups. I've had IJ doing them since he was like 5 years old. And he smokes everyone in gym class now. Like when they do it, IJ can now do, he's 15. He can put a weighted belt around with 50 pounds and do a set of 10,
nice.
Which is pretty crazy. That's pretty good. But I'm with you. I love that. Like if you get with your 2 boys, if you can get them just really good at
7 and 4, they're already doing it.
Pull-ups, push-ups, and squats. If you get good form on all that, they're gonna smoke people when they get into the gym in high school.
If my kids ever listen to this, they'll be 30 years older than they are now, so they won't be offended by this. Max is a little bit pudgy. He struggles. Manny can do almost 2.
That's great. And you know what? What I would always do with the kids when they were younger, I would push them up, and then I would have them do a hold. So do like a 10-second hold, and then I would lower them down slow, push them back up, and they'd have to hold again.
Yeah.
If you just do that for a couple weeks, they'll be doing pull-ups. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. So
I'm a big dead hang guy now.
Yeah, those are good.
I do a couple minutes of dead hangs every morning, no matter what I'm doing. So when I stretch, I'll just put my timer on and I'll hold for a minute and just hang. And I just feel like it's so much better for my back doing that. Like it stretches out the back so well, just let your whole body just kind of fall down. It's great.
Peter Attia says that's one of the things you should do every day. It's a big health marker.
This is the second time you've quoted Peter Attia in the last month, and I'd like to remind you that he is all over the Epstein files. And as of recently, probably a guy that I would just quit talking about if I were you. He's a dirtbag.
Maybe
like emails, flat emails saying like, how do I get to that island? Straight up, I would quit talking about Peter Attia.
He's not in there as much as Trump.
You bought your rucksack. That's great. Quit talking about him.
Fair enough.
Right up there with Bill Cosby. I know you're a fan of both. You should probably not talk about either of them.
Brought to you here first for Let Me Speak to a Manager. Budweiser got back to their roots.
So I'm so excited to talk about this.
What a dumpster fire Bud Light was.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't see the commercial, there's this Clydesdale, just hanging out with Clydesdales, and you can tell it's Budweiser ad. And then there's this little bird, and this little bird falls in the mud. And the Clydesdale protects it and then nurtures it and brings it back to the shed and then gets it around all the other Clydesdales. And, they get the thing running and it turns out to fly. And this little teeny bird doesn't turn into an ugly duckling. Oh, no, it's a bald eagle. And out of nowhere, it's like Freebird, the song, amazing song, Clydesdale,
get her.
Bald eagle, and like two farm hands. And what you realize is, number one, I'm not too manly to tell you I teared up. That was an amazing ad. And they even joke at that about one of the people in the ad. And the thing that was even cooler about it is Budweiser is going to sell a shitload of beer because they just got back to their roots.
So longtime listeners of Let Me Speak to a Manager will remember the episode that we did on our advice to the CEO of Bud Light. And
the new CEO, we both knew the person who was running it was going to get shit canned and did.
In that episode, we talked about how they had lost their way and they had lost their base and they could say whatever they want, they could defend, but really what they needed to do was get back to what used to work. And in there, we talked about go get some pro athletes and have them drinking beer and goofing around. What did they do very quickly after that? They went and got Peyton Manning. They got Emmitt Smith. They got some legends. They brought it back. They started doing episodes there. We said, go get some country music singers. Like the very next commercial. Do you remember the very next commercial they did after the fiasco, which country music singer's music it was?
I think so, but go.
It's one of my favorites. Zach Brown Band.
Yeah.
Homegrown, they just showed a bunch of people at a concert drinking Bud Light and Zach Brown Band playing. And then we talked about get back to the horses, get back to the Clydesdales, and they nailed it with this. And it doesn't take a lot to get people back on board. Like I was one of the loudest people you're not going to see me with a Bud Light can in my hand for years after that. But these kind of sets of commercials, also what they're doing, if you look, they got Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis is sort of a conservative, he is a conservative comedian, right? He's a Republican and he's kind of a meathead, blue collar comedy. And he's now in all of their commercials. So I think they're kind of smart in that they, and that's not to say they should only appeal to Republicans. That's stupid too. I think you should just be balanced and just appeal to people who drink Bud Light. Who are those people? Those are sports fans. Those are usually concert goers. Those are young people that like to party and have a good time. Doesn't matter how they vote. Go get those people. Don't alienate them and make them feel like shit, like outsiders. Like Frank was saying, that I like your take on Bad Bunny, by the way. And this is sort of where this episode's going. So let's just lean into it. I like that take. I hadn't thought of that because there was a lot of unity, right? You had I didn't hate the American flag with all the Latin American flags walking. I didn't hate some of that stuff. I don't know. I guess I don't get offended too easy, but that doesn't offend me like some people that are like, look at this shit, America. But that's so funny that like 80% of the country can't hear your message and you're talking about unity. And yet you just, you just kind of snuffed out all 80% of the country that you're trying to, like, who's the message to? Unless you're just saying, we don't really care. We're just sending this message to Latin America and saying, but then that's not unity. Let's just do a power to the Latin American people. That's not unity.
It's the opposite of what you tell me you're trying to do. You missed the big part of the unifying part. And I wanted to be a part of it. But I thought that was ironic.
Yeah. Did Ellie give you did he say anything of interest?
She was out out of town, so we were doing it over the phone. We're going to go back and rewatch it. We haven't watched it together yet, but she gave me a lot of little intel on it. The thing that was really interesting about it was we talked about the dominoes, the people, the working class, and all the little things that were embedded, right? Like he did some really cool stuff. People who are selling the snow cones, that's an actual business that lives in LA. They have 3 snow cone stands. Same thing with the empanadas. Like he used real people from America and who are part of the culture. The thing with I looked it up and I talked to her about it. The thing with the people working on the power lines.
Yeah.
The grid sucks there and they always fall behind because there's so much corruption. But it was.
I thought all of that was interesting. I liked all of that. I liked the little food stands, walking by the food stands. I liked, the girls kind of giving him attitude when he walked by. I liked all of the flavor that they brought to it. I didn't hate Lady Gaga there as fine, I just didn't know what the hell anyone was saying. So,
the thing that is so interesting about that to me, and I got one more little nugget when we get into business. The thing that I think is so interesting about it is it was obviously a point of view type of a situation. It was meant to bring us all in. And it did it like 80% of the way. Like if you brought us in with subtitles or, hey, we're going to publish this after the fact of what we're talking about. Like I would have loved to go read it. I wouldn't have to go I had to go to the internet. How much of it's real? What did you really mean? Like that was the only thing missing.
I would just disagree with you on that. I think it was incredibly divisive because of that. I think if your whole goal was to really unify,
that was my lead.
You kind of did the opposite. All you did was polarize more, right? In going into that. A couple other things that we've talked about before with Super Bowls. A few years ago, all of the commercials were crypto.com, crypto this, crypto that. And that was just before crypto fell apart. I found it very interesting and a little nerve-wracking that there were so many AI commercials this time. Normally, when companies start spending a lot on Super Bowl ads, it is kind of a harbinger. And right now, there's a lot of questions around whether OpenAI is a real business or just hype. I have a lot of them. They are now I thought Anthropic's ads were the best of the entire. I thought they were amazing. If you didn't see it, Anthropic, Claude is their engine, made fun of OpenAI, who is now going to run ads. And so they had these people that were like avatars acting like OpenAI, ChatGPT, and they would ask for questions and they would start to give an answer and then they would rip right into an advertisement. And the person asking was like, what? It was just hilarious. Like the one where he was asking about love advice and then she busts into goldenmamas.com. Just hilarious with this creepy, robot looking face, as they say it. And it triggered OpenAI, but OpenAI is desperate because now they're up to like an $800 billion valuation and they don't have a way to monetize. And so my opinion, I might be wrong and I'm fine with going on record, February of 26. I think sometime in the next 5 years, there's going to be a major collapse in OpenAI. And the reason why I think that, they desperately need the consumer. They need to charge. But what they have is becoming an absolute commodity.
Correct.
Every market Google has ever gone into, they just give shit away for free because they want the data. They give you Gmail. They give you Google Docs. They give you Google Sheets. They give you Google Drive. YouTube is free. Everything they do is free because they want your data. Very soon,
and they want your attention.
And at some point, they are going to say, you can get Gemini, the #1 rated model in the world, for free. We're just giving it away because we want everyone on this. And when they do that, OpenAI is going to collapse under its own weight. I don't know if you noticed, OpenAI right now is about to start having adult mode. When you haven't even gone public and you've gone full porno mode. You're in full porn mode. Adult mode, that's what it is. It is all things go. You can make up whatever porn ideas and put them to work. Make videos, make whatever, like full mode. You've already gone that route. Like when you have to go porn mode, you're cooked. That is, your moat is gone. It's over. And OpenAI doesn't have what Google has. Google has like 100 business lines that make billions of dollars, and they are going to smoke OpenAI.
For those of you that aren't paying attention to this way Ian and I are, this is pretty fascinating, right? It was about a year ago. Everybody was complaining about Gemini, which is Google's AI tool, that there was the Black George Washington. It was all this woke stuff that was just factually inaccurate. And they went from the absolute seller to the ceiling in less than 12 months because they are so incredibly diverse and well run, and they have so much information they could build it. And that, like, the go-to that I don't use ChatGPT, I use Gemini, and I think it's amazing. Ian's a little bit more diverse. He uses different types of AI more than I do.
I'm almost all Gemini though, bro. Now I'm Gemini and Grok, XAI. Those are my two.
You use Grok. I don't use Grok, but yeah, you're good. But that's my point. So I thought it was really interesting. There was one other really cool ad that my kids loved.
My question to you though, Frankie, before we go here, because you were all over the crypto thing and you nailed it.
I nailed it. It said it was peak crypto 2 Super Bowls ago.
It came back, but you were like, oh, that's it. That's the top.
Yep.
Do you think it's too early to say, because they did some Super Bowl ads, that there's some toppiness here? It could be toppiness in OpenAI. I don't think we're at the top of AI even close. I think it's just starting. Maybe it's just OpenAI. I don't know. But did you even think about that when you saw those commercials?
I thought this year's commercials were good, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty well balanced. I think you and I both know this. I think OpenAI is effed. Like, I think they're in trouble. I think they were the first ones to get there, but it's kind of like a garage band. Like, you get a couple hit songs, but sustain it. And I don't think they're going to be able to, because they don't have the ability. They just don't. They don't have the diversity that Google has. And I think it's going to show up over time. So that's what I think. I think the top's coming in AI, but I think we're a couple of years away from it. Yeah. But I think there's a couple of really mature brands that did really cool things. Like, my kids, we watched the Instacart ad like 10 times, because it was Benson Boone, who can do flips, with Ben Stiller, who can't. And
God, that was a hilarious commercial.
You get the picture, bananas,
top and hits the side of the wall.
Manny wanted to watch. I think we watched it 8 times.
That was hilarious. I saw that one of the ads that won like viewer awards was actually a like Coinbase, the one that just was the Backstreet Boys karaoke. Did you notice that one?
Yeah.
Like, for parties, that was a brilliant idea. They just had it up there so people would start singing at the party.
And then they had
not as exciting for like me watching with Madison and Jenny. We didn't all start, but like, I was like, that's actually a really smart idea, because
people remember Machine Gun Kelly, who basically just had to like cover their song, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I got one more for you. I'm gonna show you something and play this. Listen to this clip. This is amazing.
Frank, we're doing radio here. No one's gonna be able to hear this. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, I gotta get it. This is too funny.
Frank, for God's sakes, the color commentary, terrible.
All right.
What are we doing?
Keep going.
What are we doing here, Frankie? What are we
I tried it 4 times at work. It must be picking up my headphones, but it's.
I still think. My question, do you think Super Bowl ads are still relevant?
Yes.
In a social media, digital marketing world?
I think so.
I do too. I think it's one of the few, it might be the only time of the year where people look forward to seeing a new commercial. You know, I think that if you're a big brand, they're still a smart thing to do. And I think Super Bowl ads also are further proof points that once you get large enough, it is incredibly hard to knock off an incumbent. Just what we were saying about OpenAI. OpenAI has to borrow money. They have to go to the private market. They're having to go to their vendors, their suppliers, and say, put money into us so we can give money back to you. Whereas in Google's funding everything with cash flow from an existing business. Well, they're never going to have pressure to do dumb things like full adult mode porno AI. They don't have to do that. They don't need to make money in different ways. They can just fund everything and continue to fund it right out of their cash flow. Well, I think same with Super Bowl ads. There's, I don't know, they're like $8-9 million now for a small spot. You can't do that. You can't do that as a small company, as an incumbent. You can't spend your whole company. I mean, that's like an entire capital raise for a small company.
All right, I'm doing this anyways. Listen, did you hear J-Mac?
I didn't hear it, which means no one else heard it either. So why don't you just say what you heard on the stupid? What are you doing? Just say
hysterical. There were the NBA. So the NBA did something really, really interesting last week. So the NBA and the NFL used to have a gentleman's agreement, and the NBA owned Christmas Day. But about 3 years ago, the NFL said, screw this. Everybody's at home. We have a better brand. We're going to take this day over. And then what they started to do is they've started to do like these things where they put like 4 teams together or 6 teams together, and they'd almost do like a round robin. And they would make it so that it would line up with Christmas Day. So 2 years ago, Christmas Day was on a Wednesday, and now it's on a Thursday. Next year it'll be a Friday. But the reason they do this is they'll have a couple of teams where they'll move the week game up before and do like a Saturday, so those guys can play on a Wednesday. And it's kind of like the difference between it's just a logistical thing. But so the NBA is now, nobody watches the NBA. Like you used to always watch LeBron James and Dwayne Wade on Christmas Day. Like that's over. Now you're getting the NFL. So the NBA, what they did, which was brilliant, is they moved their trade deadline up to the week of the Super Bowl. There's nothing going on except for the Super Bowl, and they made it Thursday at 5. So there's all this individual attention now that the NFL has lost, because you just see all these other things now. Every day it's getting covered. Monday there's a trade. Tuesday there's a trade. All week leading into the Super Bowl. It was really, really smart. But that clip, which is hysterical, was talking about possibly the worst trade in NBA history. The Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic a year ago at the trade deadline to the Lakers. And the Dallas just got shipped off basically everybody they got in that trade and got a bunch of like second round picks, and they got rid of Anthony Davis. So the funny line was the guy who pulled that trade off for the Dallas Mavericks is no longer in the NFL. He's now working at the Outback Steakhouse. And that was on Colin Cowherd. J-Mac said it. And I as soon as it happened, I recorded. I'm like, I got to play this for Ian. It's not just me and Nickel that keep bringing up the Outback Steakhouse.
Did it hurt your feelings that they would insult Outback that way? Like,
we'd love to have that guy.
That doesn't feel like a downgrade. I mean,
he seems like an amazing hostess. He would really look great with the chocolate.
Nico would do just fine with all of it.
All right, we have managed to blow off 28 minutes here just riffing. So if you're curious what it sounds like before we hit record, this is what it usually sounds.
So Frankie and I just finished up our capital raise. We just raised $2.5 million of private money. How many people do we have in it? We have 17 investors for $2.5 million. This particular investment vehicle, we were oversubscribed, meaning we had more open interest than we could give capitals, probably oversubscribed by about $1 million. And out of the 17 people that are in this investment, 5 are brand new to Frank and I. So we are excited. I always love, in every capital raise, I'm always eager to try to get a couple of new people in that we can make some money to. You can always go back to some of your tried and true people that want to put more money into chase new deals, but we're always trying to expand the pie and get new people that we can make money for. So this is the 4th deal we've done, Frankie. All right, yeah, 4th deal. And so we did an episode on this also. This is the ADU deal that we are doing in Richmond, where we are taking lots, we are re-permitting them, and there are existing lots with existing tenants that are paying rent, fully realized rent, and we are splitting these lots, building an ADU, and getting a second renter. So we are boosting the rent potential of each lot by roughly 50%. And so the $2.5 million is going to be seed money to get a larger loan. The total value of the properties that are going to be included in here is roughly $15 million. And it's roughly 30 homes, 25, 30 homes, what we come up with.
25 primary residents with 25 additional dwelling units in the back.
Yep. So exciting. So we have everything secured. Now we have to get a prospectus out, agreement signed, and we'll have folks start wiring money. Once the money wires, then Frank starts getting to work on the construction to perm loan and also gets his crews working on building these ADUs.
So one of the things we recorded this in September, and we haven't even closed the loan yet with the investors, because we wanted to make sure we took something from concept to reality. So of the 25 houses that we are bringing into this ADU, we've got about somewhere between 10 and 15 of those are either in permit or permits have been issued. And I wanted to make sure it was real before we did this. So we were really slow in closing because we wanted to make sure the concept was reality. We've got 10 houses under construction as we speak. Now, Richmond went through a great frost. We ended up having 1 inch of snow and 1 inch of frozen rain. So it basically rendered us useless. It was like a nuclear bomb went off for 2 weeks here. No progress was made, but we are getting through that now, and we're actually getting under roof. So it's pretty exciting. So it's, I don't know, pretty cool. And it speaks to kind of what we were talking about earlier with kind of where the economy is and where we are socially. Like, there is a massive, massive need for affordable housing. We covered that a couple months ago. We talked about it, but we are at the forefront of that. And it's very, very exciting.
I had an interesting conversation with one of my kids. I took a call and I said, and I rarely take calls late in the evening for work, but that's kind of when you have to talk to all of these investors because they're all working during the day. And so I took a call and I had to kind of interrupt my conversation with the kids. That I have to take this, which is unusual, right? Like, I don't usually get those calls at night. Madison was listening, just kind of listening in on my conversation. And, I'm trying to explain different aspects of the deal. And, I got off and she's like, "What was that about?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing a deal with Frank." And Madison's very inquisitive. So she's like, "Well, what does doing a deal mean?" And I tried to kind of explain it. She's like, "Well, who is that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a friend and I'm asking for money. They're just going to give you money?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't work that way. Like, the money goes into a deal and I give them money back. There's a return. They want to make a lot of money." And it was just interesting, like, as she's kind of piecing this together, like, why are you doing this? Why isn't Frank doing it? And I'm like, "Well, Frank has a role. He's got to make them the money. He's got a bigger job than I do. My role in this is to go find him money so that we can start." And it was really interesting. She just started asking, "Well, how do you know who to call? Who do you call? Who just has $100,000 to give?" And I'm like, "Well, people that are successful, that kick ass in life. Do you have to have 100,000?" And I was like, "Well, we said it that way. Yeah, for this deal, but you could technically invest anything you want in things, but we wouldn't want a lot of $10,000 because that's a lot of checks to have to send. So we kind of set a minimum." But it was really interesting as she was like, "Well, why would they give you guys the money? Why not someone else?" And I thought that was a great question. I said, "Well, 2/3 of this money are people that have invested with us before. Frank and I have worked with a lot of these people before. They know our track record. And a good chunk of these folks, we've already done a good job for when they've given us money before." And so for me, that's one of the first lessons of raising capital. I've said this before in here. My first commercial deal that I closed was really hard. I had nothing. I started from scratch. I was cold calling banks. I was cold calling realtors. I didn't even know where to start. It was really hard. The second one came 60 days later. It was easy because I'd closed one. I was no longer some schlep who was
Wasn't just
interested
the
in the
concept.
commercial. I was an investor and an owner. I was a different guy. I was a different person and I was perceived differently. And I think raising capital is much easier when you have a track record. So if you're like young and you're listening, you're like, "That sounds fun. I'm going to go raise $2.5 million. That's a way to make money." Okay, sure. But what track record are you basing it off of? Because that's the question people are going to ask. And for me, Frank is sort of an easy sell. There's Frank and I were talking about this morning. There's like degrees of separation. So some of these people know me and Frank. Some know just me. The ones where they know me and Frank and they know both of our work, easier to raise the capital, right? They're kind of quick. The ones where they just know me, those were a little bit harder at first. And now that we've performed, they know what we do together. Now we're starting to get to like levels of separation where people don't know Frank at all. Or it's someone who knows me through an investor who's done a deal before. So now they're like, they don't even know me. They just know me because someone gave my name to them. Though it starts to get harder as you get farther away from our actual work. But we're still at a place where $2.5 million and a $15 million total deal is relatively easy because we are still working off of sort of the halo of our past work. But if Frank and I wanted to turn this into like, let's raise $25 million for $200 million, that would be way harder because now you're not going to have that halo of we know what you guys can do. Now you'd have to build it. And I would argue you couldn't go from like the next raise would have to be 5 million, then 7.5. That's why we're always looking to try to get a few new investors. Frank and I get excited. We're like, "Hey, there's a new name. That's a new person." I'm always trying to get a few extra to come in there. But the long and the short of it, as I was talking to Madison, I said, the best thing I've got is Frank's been doing this for 20 years and hasn't screwed up yet. Frank's really good at what he does. And I could take any one of these investors down to Richmond and we could go see 300 houses that he's done before. I could take them to his office and see cubicles of sales, marketing, construction, permitting people who have been doing the job. And I could let any investor interview any one of them and feel very confident that this isn't just some snake oil that we're trying to sell. So, I thought I would just kind of share some of that conversation because it was interesting. There's a lot of different ways to make money in the world. Frank's really good at making money by buying low, adding value to properties, and selling high. Raising capital is one way to make money. That's one way that I add value into this deal for Frank and manage the investors. But I'm sort of cheating at this point because it's not something someone could just decide to do for Frank, I don't think.
I'm glad we're talking about how you're cheating now that we've come up with your fee. One of the things that I think is kind of I'm going to ask you to follow up in a second, but one of the things I want to just state real quick is this. As a real estate investor, I can raise money, and I have. And I've raised bunches of money. I had one guy that did $13 million at one point with me as a private investor at one time. Like my lifetime relationship with him is almost 50 million bucks. But one of the things that I do now is I don't really raise the money. I find someone who will help me raise it. So I go to Ian, I go to some other folks. I might go to some people who have like funds. And it's for these reasons. Can I raise money? Of course. Is it what I invest at? No. What I invest at is finding opportunities like this one, paying a premium to someone who will help me raise the money because it keeps me focused on the things that I'm great at. Now, if we get to a point where we become Grant Cardone and we start to do these things, maybe we build a branch inside of our business where all we do is raise money. But we don't do that right now because we don't have the volume. So from time to time, I might pay a little bit of a premium to raise it. But I find someone like Ian who's a promoter of the deal and he understands what we do and how we do it. He gets into the deals most of the time too. And he's into this one for a big number. And as an owner, I look at, okay, I am going to do what I do really well. I work well with Ian. We have a level of respect and trust. And it makes sense for me within the macro to understand what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. Because longevity wise and for the long term of this particular project and for the business, I'm better suited staying in my lane and not getting multiple.
I think another way that I cheat is what Frank just said. The number one question I get from people is your own money in this deal. I don't do deals with Frank where I just get a fee. I put my own money at risk. So if Frank screws this thing up and it goes to zero, I'm going to lose more than any investor in the deal. So
You and I have the most to lose in every deal we've ever done.
In all of the deals, that's right. I am the number one private investor, right? Like I am the number. Frank obviously has a lot to lose. His name's on the door. It's his properties, but I can look people in the eye and say, if this thing goes to shit, I lose money. Also, that promoter fee, I don't take it up front. If Frank doesn't generate money, if this thing doesn't have monthly rents, I'm getting nothing out of this. I only win if the investors win. If I'm getting paid anything at the end of this or in monthly pieces, which I'm from a waterfall perspective, I am, on the LP as that's how I am making my money, but I don't get that up front. I don't take that as cash. And so that's also cheating. If you're new and you're starting and you don't have any money to put into a deal, people will look at you differently and say, well, you don't have any skin in the game. What you're just selling me right now. You're just trying to get paid a commission. That's not how I raise capital. And that's on my commercial deals. I'm the number one equity guy when I do a car shop. If I do a equipment rental, I'm by far the most equity in the deal. So this thing doesn't go well. Listen, I feel the pain more than anyone. It was the same when we raised money for a tech company. I have as much money into it. So does David. Like if this thing doesn't work, just know what you're getting yourself into. I am too. And I think that's really important that if you want to get in this game of promoting and partnering with someone else, you've got to get to a place where you can convince people that there's real pain for you if the thing doesn't go well and that you're sharing that. This isn't a, let me snatch up some money on the front end. And if this thing goes bad, you guys, sorry, you knew the risk getting in.
I started this business in 2007. I went full-time in 2009. And do you remember what year we closed our first deal together?
2019.
Yeah, end of 19. So I had been in business for 10 full years before I ever did a deal with Ian. And we just said you had 17 investors in this. We could have had 25. We had to whittle some people out. So we had 25 potential investors. And of the 25 potential investors, what we did on this one is, do you remember how many people we had in our first deal that we did? How many investors?
You're on mute, dude. What?
Do you remember how many investors we had in our first deal?
You know what? Are you talking about RVA 75?
Yep, it was 6. You
Like
and me
10?
and 4 others.
6?
6.
Just 6? Who
You
were
and
they?
me.
By the way, what were the first names?
Ian and Frank, Ron, Tim, Ted, and Jeff.
Joe.
No, he wasn't in the first one.
He was not in the first deal.
Westwood was the first one he was in, and neither was Matt B.
I love that. So this is important to just talk about for a second.
Hold on one second before you say that. Talking about importance. First deal, Ian said, I have to have you put your own money in. I had to put 500 grand in. I did. It wasn't what I was planning on, but at the last minute I did it at the recommendation of his attorney. In addition to that, we had 6 people in that deal. I'm related to 2 of them. And what we did on that deal is we started very, 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 very small with 6 investors total. 2 of them were Ian and me. The second promote, we paid those people back in 13 months with an interest rate that was nuts. And second promote, kind of proof of concept, we thought second deal, we had 15 people in. I brought 5, you brought 10. And that was the Westwood deal. And we did twice as big. Your mom's in it. My mom's in it. Like we went to people, like if we lost in that first deal, it was people could afford it. We didn't go to our moms. So like your sphere of influence starts to grow because of the fact that you kind of go out.
And out of those 6, I sent that first deal to more than 6. I sent that to a lot of people, and there were a lot of people that were close that were like, maybe not. Here's what's interesting though, is in sales, for me, like there are some people that are in this deal that that's the 4th prospectus I've sent to, 4th investor deck. Every time they've said, hey, this one's not for me, but keep me in mind. Go to them again. Hey, you said keep you in mind. We're doing it again. Here's the terms. Here's the return. And this time we've got 5 people in that have said no to past deals. So, that's kind of that familiarity effect. Also, it goes without saying, if we're raising again, the other 3 have gone well. Like it goes without saying a little bit that these things are working and we're continuing to do more of this. So you start to get a little bit of a track record. It's easier to then go talk to people before, but ultimately these are not people that I want to disappoint. And I wouldn't put my own money into a deal as significantly as I am with you if I didn't think I was going to make money. But 2, I also wouldn't pitch something to someone I cared about if I thought that it didn't have a good line of sight to making them money and having a decent return.
What's funny about this is Ian doesn't remember the exact number, but I do for this reason. This was very big for me. I went outside, I raised with friends and family, and I don't typically do that. And I organize my life through a series of, I have every conceivable advantage with phones and technology, but I also have a stack of papers that I carry with me everywhere I go, and it changes over time. I have a couple of sticky notes that I always carry with me, and I always have like a couple of little notepads, right? I took a notepad that I use and I laminated it, and I carried it with me for 14 months from the day that deal closed to the day those people got paid back. And I memorized how many dollars were in per person, how we did it, that whole thing, because it meant so much to me and I didn't ever want to forget it. And the reason that you get credibility with people over time, Ian and I talked about the first deal he closed as an investor. And there was one guy who lives in Florida that was a big deal. And Ian called me up and we started talking about it. And I said, get on a plane and go talk to him if you have to, but get that guy on board. That guy's our biggest promoter on these deals now with the people who live in Florida because they trust him. And if they trust him, he has to put a lot of pressure on himself because he's the guy who kind of vets it for everybody else. So you kind of realize in these things, your reputation really matters. Your performance matters. And if you do a good job, people are like, yeah, I would give them some money, Madison, because they've proven to me that my $100,000 can turn into $500,000 or $1 million. The guy that I did 40 million with, he's ultimately passed away, unfortunately for me, but he was a great partner for me. Our first loan was $230,000 and I paid him back in 47 days. And because I did that deal, he's like, what else you got? Well, I had $1.5 million out with him next. And then I paid the $1.5 million back and we jumped to 5. And he's like, can you take 10? I go, yeah. So that's how you start to build these things, is kind of piece by piece.
I love that. Your alternative at some point when some of the private capital dries up though, and you had to do more of this when you were first starting off, is hard money lending.
Yep.
Which that kind of talk about like some of the downsides of hard money. One, you're getting money, but the rate's usually crazy, isn't it? Like credit card rates with some people, right?
So I think a better question to answer is why do this deal at all, right? So here's the reason. These are some assets that I currently own, but you got to stay in business with profitability. and you want to kind of expand out. So what we did is we took some of our stuff and we syndicated it, which means we took it into a deal structure. And for me, I get to realize some profit because I've already seasoned these deals and turned them from really good to great. And I've done a bunch of renovation work on them. And now what I want to do is I want to say, like, does this thing really work? But I can't do it all myself because I would be just tied up with debt. So what we did in this is we sold basically equity into an entity. So what is equity if you don't understand equity? Equity is your down payment on a house or your down payment on a car. And it comes through a couple of different places. You can be born rich, which neither of us were. It can come from years and years and years of savings, or you sell your equity. So you go to people who have cash and they give you the down payment. So like on a normal house, it's 20% down. That is either money you saved or in a sophisticated financial vehicle, you raise it. So we raised the 20% roughly in this deal, and then we're going to use debt. So when I started years and years ago, the public options or the hard money options were basically someone who will put you in concrete shoes and put you into a river and you'll never be seen again if you default. And that's where it started. Really, really, really expensive rates that are up with credit card interest.
On just a simple note.
Yep. But what happened, because if you think about this, I got into this in 07. 2009. Well, hedge funds started buying between 2009 and 2012. Hedge funds are real money. It's Wall Street. So they put services around it, meaning there's debt services. There's people who do equity raises. There's people who will clean your windows, like everything from the finance side to the nuts and bolts in the management. What happened is what started off as a mom and pop business became a real Wall Street business. And because of that fact, this industry grew up really quickly. And now there are tons of lenders who are in our space. My number one preferred lender that I go to closes $750 million in loans a month, a nutty amount. I have a $30 million line of credit with them. So I can borrow as much as I want. They're going to be kind of the back end money on this deal with us. So it started off 15 years ago. It's very different than it looks today. But you have to understand, like, what do I hope to achieve? How do I want to achieve it? And do I want to do it with bootstrapping my own cash, or do I want to go to someone like Ian, promote a deal, sell some equity, have enough cash where I'm not strapped? And that's the reason you do a deal like this. You give up some of the back end to have a little bit more comfort throughout the course of the process.
So I'll just give a quick summary of why would an investor want to do this? Because ultimately the return needs to be better than where they could put their money somewhere else, right? Yes to one thing is no to another. So if I'm putting $100,000 of my money into a Kava deal or this specific deal, why would I do that? Or just not buy Apple stock or put it in treasuries for 4%. So what we've tried to do with this deal, and Frank and I have done a couple different things. We've done a bond before where simple, tie some assets to a return, pay it back, no equity. On that deal, it's a 10%?
10.5%.
10.5%. 10.5%, you put 100,000 in, you make 10,500 every year until we pay back the capital. That's it. No upside, nothing above. You're just getting an above treasury return on your money that is not liquid like a treasury. So that's why you have to pay significantly more than 4%. One, there's more risk. Two, it's not liquid. You don't get the money back until we tell you. This deal, I think this is the most creative one that we've done. Two things an investor wants to know. When are you going to give me my capital back? And what's my return while I wait? Really three things. And is there upside on the back end? Bond was very simple. We pay this back in 2.5 years. Your return is 10.5%. Simple, no upside. Answer the three questions. Pretty straightforward.
And now let me interject. That is kind of like down the middle of the fairway of deals we've done. The first deal we did, people made almost 30%, which I think I overpaid, but it was my first deal with this group, so we had to overpay. The bond is kind of boring for people. That it was not overly subscribed because it was kind of boring. But things that Ian's talking about, it's a component. It's got a preferable or a payment you're going to get during the process, get some of your money back. You share some skin in the back end. That deal's a little bit easier to sell and you get a lot more interest.
Yeah, the reason why we tweak this is exactly that. The bond, kind of lukewarm. Not a lot of people are too excited about that. And the truth is, as good as the stock market's been doing, can I just put it in the stock market? Do I feel like I can get 10.5%? Probably, and I can pull my money whenever I want. So this deal is different in that there are three phases. The first phase right out of the gate pays a very high return. It's an 11% return. And so if you put 100,000 in, again, you're getting an 11% return. Our goal is to give people half of their capital back as soon as possible. So within 2 to 3 years, and probably faster than that. Once we pay half your capital back, so that person with 100 now has 50,000 back. We've taken 50% of your risk off the table of this real estate deal. At this point, your return drops to 9%. Our thinking there of why the return drops is because we've taken some of your risk down. Now that your risk is down, you've got a little capital back, the return's a little less. Then when we pay back all of your capital, 100%. Now we go into phase 3. In phase 3, you become an equity owner. So the LLC now owns 15% of any profits, including net rents. So on the deal that we're doing, we're hoping for $500,000 to $600,000 of net income annually. The LLC will take 15% of that. Here's what's beautiful about that, though. That percentage, we had a few people like, why only 15%? It's like, because you have no risk. We've given you all your money back. You can double dip now. You can put all 100,000 into Apple stock, make a 12% return on your Apple, and you're getting 15% in the LLC with us. So in that deal, I got all of my 100,000 back. I have zero risk. Frank could go flat bust now, and I can't lose money anymore. But I will continue for years until we sell the last property. I will continue to get a quarterly payout. Now, albeit much smaller because it's not based on the capital. I will get a quarterly payout, and at the end, when the last is sold, I will get whatever exit. So you're getting an exit, you're getting equity, and while your capital's out, you're getting, 9 to 11% returns, which are really nice returns. So this one answers everything. The bond, no upside on top, right? No equity ownership. You don't continue to own after, very short duration. This one, you get a bond-like return in the first 3 to 5 years while your capital's out, and we try to take your risk down quickly, and you continue to have equity. So you get all three answered. Yes, high return. Yes, we return your capital as quickly as possible. And yes, you continue to have equity. So
100%.
It's kind of a unique deal. It's not a deal you're going to find by going to your Bank of America or Wells Fargo guy if you have a lot of money in retirement. It's a unique deal structure. It's one that obviously requires a little bit of trust and some track record, but it's a really nice return for investors. And I think what the people that are in this deal, what they like about it is they're getting their risk taken off the table, and then they can put that back into something else. They could put it into another deal with us and continue to get these equity payments with their capital off.
What I think makes this deal really unique and I think needs to be addressed is this, and I'm sure Ian did this with his individual calls. So if you ask me what I'm really good at, I'm really good at one thing: finding distressed below market properties in the city of Richmond that you can repurpose and rent affordably through Section 8 and other type of government subsidized programs. And I'm really good at it. But I'm not great at
Also really good at eating smoked meats.
I don't like smoked as much of meat, yes. But point is, I'm good at that. And I'm not great at a bunch of other things, right? I'm not good at fitting into a bikini, but I'm good at that. So why does this matter? And why can we pay these returns when everybody else in the world is paying a much smaller return? Well, we found, loophole's the wrong word, but we found an opportunity that is capitalistic on where we are in the economic cycle. So I have these rentals that I've owned for somewhere between a couple of years and a decade or more, and they're stabilized and they perform. Many of them are on like 3% primary debt, which is really low. But when the legislation changed and they allowed for these accessory dwelling units to be built in the backyard, I don't have to buy new land. I don't have to get new tap fees. All I have to do is build an additional house in the back, and I can build it for below market value, and I don't have to acquire the land. So we're doing a deal where we're going to pay an above market premium or pref because we're uniquely positioned to capitalize on what we've already done and modify it with where the market is today. So that's the type of thing you're looking for. And you need an operator who can do those things. We can give you an above market return, and we can pay a premium because we're so well positioned on the front end. And if this thing goes sideways, well, then we just continue to ride it out with the rents, and the rents justify the primary debt and the money that we'd have to pay to the equity investor because we've already modeled this out. So those are the things that give us an ability to pay an above market rate because of the fact that we're really good locally. We know what we're looking at from this market, and that's what sets us apart. Is we have a really unique entry position.
So the only other thing that I'll just add to this, and we can wrap up this episode, another question investors would have is why Richmond, right? All of these properties are going to be in Richmond, Virginia. And my answer to that's simple. The first one being, it's all Frank knows. and that's good. We're not going to El Paso. We're not going to Albuquerque. We're not chasing the next thing. Frank has been living and breathing Richmond real estate for 50. That's where his expertise is. That's where his people are. He knows it inside and out, which means he understands the value and he understands where values are going over the next 10 years, which is really what you care about. In 2018, there were 10,000 homes for sale listed under $350,000 in Richmond. Today, it's 1,300. It's dropped 90%. So when you talk about the entry-level supply in Richmond, it's non-existent. It's non-existent. And so things like part of the reason why Frank just can't go buy 30 properties and do this, it's hard to find them. There's no supply. So he has to get creative and taking existing lots, splitting them in two, which is, I think, a very creative and a very smart way of doing it. But when people ask why Richmond, what they're asking, there is a speculation piece of this as well, because we're giving you equity. What are these things going to be worth in 10 years? We don't know. I don't make any promises, but the truth is, given the supply nature, we don't see a way they're not significantly higher in 10 years because of where current supply levels are and where demand is going. 40,000 new residents have moved to Richmond just in the last 3 years. It's one of the fastest growing metros in the country with over 1 million people. So there are so many different things that are playing in Richmond's favor. And just the fact that it's kind of a gem. It is not talked about. It is not highly competitive to do what Frank is doing. It's not Miami. It's not Palm Beach. It's not Austin. It's not places where every real estate wannabe in the world wants to go because they think that they're going to make a lot of money. Richmond's quiet. It's under the radar and it's a gem.
I agree with all that stuff. And the other thing of it is, like, why did we do this deal the way we did it? We did it with existing inventory because we've taken 50% of the risk out of the way with properties I already know. We already know it. We already own it. We have a relationship with the resident who lives there, who's paying us rent. And as we do proof of concept, the next deal we'll do is probably in Richmond, and it will probably be with stuff we acquire versus own, because we just don't have enough of these that we own to do another deal. But we will now have one of the risk factors kind of figured out on the first deal. You can add a second risk factor the second time because you have proof of concept. And then third is either we do another deal in Richmond, or maybe we go slightly outside of Richmond to a market that feels a lot like it, that we can drive to, that has a very similar demographic and will satisfy the same type of back end type of product. You don't have to reinvent the entire wheel.
Where I get excited about Frankie too, where this can go, is the first deal we did, we acquired a portfolio from an older guy that was trying to do some estate planning. We had to go figure out what we had with all those different properties, but we acquired the portfolio. That was, went in, upgraded a lot of the houses, put a little bit of money into them, flipped them, had to stabilize the rents, raise the rents, but that's how we made 30% in 12 months, which was awesome. It would be fun to kind of put these two concepts together where we acquire a portfolio, we do the permitting, we upgrade it, we stabilize all the rents, and we do it with private capital with a similar type of entity where you are not just cannibalizing your current doors that you own because you want to keep some for rent. That could be really fun.
And here's where it gets complicated. I have 110 deals, 110 single family homes I've identified that all work in this portfolio. But I have to convince these people to sell it. And in order to convince them to sell it, like, they're mostly business owners that just happen to own some single family rentals, right? It's like 3 different people own 110. I've got to go solve for them where they put their money and how they can get 100% depreciation so they can 1031 or get out of this thing and sell it to me because I can make a difference. But that's the creative part of this whole process, right? Like, you can go to Apple or you can go to the stock market, you can put your money in T-bills, but you do a deal like this because there's creativity. Once we have proof of concept on this and we already know we have a couple $1 million that we can raise on the next deal, I can go get aggressive and say, hey, I'm going to buy it and I'm also going to help you solve this problem before you close. You start bringing unique things to the table, and that's how you start to build a real portfolio.
And you do it deal by deal, and each deal gets a little bit bigger, a little more creative, and you keep adding value for people. And next thing you know, it's going to be 2036. You're going to be watching the Super Bowl, and you're going to see Frank and I putting some of our Super Bowl marketing ideas to work on affordable dwelling unit real estate deals.
Leave it to that Budweiser, baby. They hit us.
Maybe a Let Me Speak to a Manager podcast Super Bowl coming to you shortly.
We did cover this at some point, but we did make a pitch to buy Crypto.com Arena when it went belly up, but we were turned back.
Did not get a response. Didn't get turned back. I'm not sure they opened it.
Our LOI was ignored.
So, Frankie, good hanging out with you. If you are new to this podcast, mash that subscribe and follow button. Make sure to give us a 5-star review and tell us how much you love Frank's black flower in his sport jacket. He looks really handsome today.
I'll see you in a couple hours, my friend.
See you, homie.